You're live on YouTube.
Okay, welcome colleagues to this special council meeting on September 27th, Monday at 5 p.m. Thank you all for being here. We understand that Councillor Doreen O'Sullivan is away and sends her regrets. She's on the other side of the border for a special family occasion, so won't be joining us. As you know, we have a fairly short agenda, council colleagues, so I'll look for a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda this evening. Kind of a mover. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Strachan. I'll call the question on the agenda. There's just one item, and that is in regards to September 30th. All in favor? Okay. Thank you. So next is disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest in regards to tonight's meeting? Seeing none. Thank you. So then we'll skip all the way down to other business. And that brings us to the singular item on the agenda, which is obviously September 30th. And maybe I can start things off quickly, Council, as some of you will remember, as all of us will remember, and I think perhaps members of the public. We had a discussion last Wednesday, I believe, in regards to how to approach September 30th. Of course, you may recall that the House of Commons, just before it rose for the summer, decided through an all-party unanimous motion to declare September 30th Truth and Reconciliation Day. And that was a long-standing recommendation from the TRC report back in 2017. So we received a report on that day and certainly made some decisions about how the municipalities should treat September 30th. And we also received some information on some staff engagement sessions, a council engagement session, which is coming up, as well as the fact that we look forward to, in fact, launching a series of community engagement sessions around what does truth and reconciliation mean. Subsequent to that meeting, I know some of you, as I've shared with some of you, I had the chance to interact with some other municipal leaders, community leaders, Indigenous leaders, on how municipalities are approaching September 30th. And I know Councillor Strachan has been part of some really important conversations, and it led me to shift my thinking a little bit. I've learned that both federal and provincial government employees will be recognizing the day. And our own United Counties of Leeds and Grenville is also recognizing the day. So all offices, for the most part, will be closed. In addition, it became more evident to me that this first September 30th is really an opportunity to obviously highlight the tragedy of the unmarked graves that have been found near several residential schools, and to really highlight the trauma and the tragedy of the suffering that was endured by so many children at residential schools. So I'm aware that September 30th, certainly from a municipal perspective, has a lot of significance, as it does at other levels of government. So as a consequence, I wanted to bring forward the possibility of us taking what we had decided as a 2-hour closure from 12 to 2 p.m. and extending it for the whole day. So effectively, we would be shutting the office for the day, and giving all employees an opportunity to learn and reflect, and also signaling to our community that this day really matters. It's the first Truth and Reconciliation Day here on September 30th. And I know we'll want to amplify and ensure its impact, certainly across Eastern Ontario. Maybe I can leave it there, and there are other colleagues that want to speak to where I'd like us to go, or where I'd at least like to have some good discussion. Feel free to signal. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I will speak to the motion that was brought forward last week, because it was, in my own way, an attempt to strike a balance, I think, and for a variety of reasons. I don't think that it achieved what I had hoped. I think it overlooked the importance of this day simply as a day of recognizing and respecting the loss of thousands of Indigenous children at residential schools. And I think that fact alone, I think, should be enough to warrant this day to be a holiday at the municipal level, the area in which we have any sort of say or control. What has changed since then for me is also a very lengthy conversation that took place at the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority Board of Directors meeting last Thursday, in which there are 18 participating municipalities. So we got to hear from representatives on council as well as residents on their thoughts on the day and what each of the different municipalities were doing to recognize the September 30th. And it varied greatly. And I think that our original plan, or the plan as it stands right now, sort of fell somewhere in the middle of the conversation, from doing a full closure and a wide variety of events to lead, down that path of learning and truth, and on the other end, where there was very few, where there were fewer who were recognizing the day at all. So while I don't think we made a wrong decision, I think that it was probably not fully fleshed out, and we did not give as much consideration, as much weight to it as we could have. At least I certainly didn't. So I'll speak just for my own thoughts on this. And so allowing a time for reflection on the 30th is important. And I don't think we should be encouraging, I guess, or setting anybody up to pick and choose on that day. I think offering the day up entirely will be a good opportunity. I have immersed myself in a variety of different training and sessions and learning opportunities, Indigenous learning opportunities over the last month in particular, a lot in the last week. And, one of the comments that sort of has stuck with me is that before reconciliation, we need to get to truth, and truth requires reflection. It requires learning. It requires an acknowledgement of where individually we may not have enough information or may not have had the opportunity to learn, and now recognize the need for that learning. And so the learning will go far beyond the 30th and far beyond this week of Truth and Reconciliation. But I think this is a good start. And I think if you'll indulge me, I think I have a few thoughts that I would just like to share, because I don't want anybody to think that this is an overwhelming day where there is nothing that can be done if you don't do everything. And I think it's important to recognize that the simple act of wearing orange on the day is very symbolic, but it's very meaningful. Taking that moment of silence, some have suggested at 2:15 to recognize the 215 unmarked graves that were found in Kamloops that really precipitated a lot of this most recent discussion about truth and reconciliation amongst Canadians. There are local ceremonies, our flag raising is one of them, but also some that are extending, outside of this area, but not too far away. And I think looking up local events is another opportunity. Simple acts of reading and supporting Indigenous authors and so on. Our library has a wonderful collection for children as well as for adults, and making that an opportunity to read and to just absorb some of the information and some of the stories that come through those writings, I think is important as well. The National Center for Truth and Reconciliation has a very good program that's currently set up for this week, and anybody can sign up. It's meant for school-age children, grades 5 and up, I think is generally what it is set at, but it's also perfect for adults. And it's all on YouTube. You can watch it any time of day. There's live streaming. There's all sorts of different topics being covered. And I think, even attending one of those sessions will be enlightening, and there'll be a lot to learn. The First Nations Child and Family Caring Society has done a lot for children in Indigenous communities, and they have very extensive and exhaustive series of videos and resources that people can tap into. And again, this all can be done via Google search. I think that there's lots of information out there, and even looking up different news articles will point you in different directions. I think the important thing to remember is learn, listen, educate. Those are the things that have stuck with me throughout this, is that take that opportunity to find out where you can best learn and where you can listen and absorb some of this, and be open, your mind and your hearts to be open to this. There's a lot to this. There's a lot of information. And if It is overwhelming. There are certainly places to seek help and not to go at this alone, but also to make sure that you're available for the information that comes, because there is a lot there. I thought I knew quite a bit going into this, and I realized that I have a lot of gaps in my understanding and my appreciation for the Indigenous communities, as well as the history as well. So thank you for indulging me on that piece. But on the topic of the 30th specifically, I think that creating a day as a statutory holiday, at least for this year, and recognizing it, I think in that way for all municipal employees would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strakian. Any other comments from colleagues? Councillor Barkley?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity for us to continue a discussion that we started last Wednesday. I think we pride ourselves in being thoughtful and deliberate, and I think this day has come upon us rather quickly, even though it's been talked about, I guess, in the national press for quite a while. My only comment is, I think as a council, we're called on to be leaders, certainly, and representatives, but also stewards of what we've inherited, both the good and bad. And as much as we'd like to celebrate our heritage, our history, preserve our built heritage, I think we also need to reconcile ourselves to parts of our past that are ugly and shameful. So this opportunity, I'd hesitate to call it a holiday, but a day of reflection, I think is part of what a mature community does. And I'm happy to support the motion to make it a paid day off for staff. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments at this stage? Deputy Mayor?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we've had, obviously, we've all had time to reflect. And I think that's important. I think it was a bit of a surprise, I guess, at the meeting to some degree, not thoroughly, but to some degree. So I would guess that my thinking at the time and before that, I may have underestimated the value of that day or the significance of that day. And it probably comes from my background as, being a business person for, all my life, and seeing government doing different things. I maybe didn't think that it was significant that just government employees or whatever would get the time off. So I've reflected on that, and I've changed my mind for sure that it's, especially after several conversations and some of my own research too, because we do have that education piece coming up, and that'll be the start of our journey in October and onwards. Like I've said last week, I'm looking forward to learning more, and so. Yeah, I'm ready to recognize this for sure, and I think we're all looking at it. Maybe it's a little bit different because it is the first one. I think governments and whatnot and other institutions will have conversations later on in I'm sure in the next several months, a year, or whatever, to decide what that's going to look like. When I was speaking last week. The holiday, like I just mentioned, maybe didn't seem as significant to me in my head, but all the other items that were actually on the list of things that we can actually concretely do, and make a difference because we're actually doing something. So I guess the holiday, didn't really sync with me, but in reflection, it actually is a day of reflection. And that's, I can see the importance of that. Absolutely. And this is a good start to do that, to recognize that. And then going forward, we have several items that have been recognized at the municipal level that we can take care of, and I look forward to jumping on those to see how we can institute them across this municipality. So, anyways, those are my thoughts. Definitely, the more information you can get, the better your response or your thought can be. And I'm glad we've had this chance to talk. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm glad we had this time to reflect on this particular day and this comment or this subject. Thank you.
Well, thank you, council colleagues. I think reconciliation is a journey and we're very much in the early stages. So I think we can be forgiven if we don't always get it right the first time. It is about building relationships. It is about, I think, lending some deep thought and shifting our perspectives. And I know personally how valuable it's been to actually engage in some additional conversations and broaden my horizons on why it matters, right? That the municipality close its doors for that day and take a pause, and obviously invite our municipal employees to also take a pause to reflect and learn. However, it's also about the greater community and being in partnership with many other municipalities and levels of government who are also doing their best to recognize the day, given its intent. And I think all of our hopes for that day, right? If we don't personally have children, many of us have kids. Obviously, we all have kids here, but if you don't have children, certainly I'm sure you have kids in your lives. And it's really tough to think about what many Indigenous kids went through in their residential school experience across many generations. So in many respects, I think the intention of the House of Commons when they passed the motion, I think in June, was an extremely good one. But it is early days. And I was listening to an interview on CBC radio on the weekend, and somebody asked an Indigenous leader from a different part of the country, well, what can we do? And the Indigenous leader said, reconciliation is about Indigenous and non-Indigenous coming together, and non-Indigenous persons and communities have to really come to terms with it for themselves. It's not always up to us as Indigenous peoples to walk the path. We need you alongside us. And in some cases, we need you helping to lead the journey where it's appropriate to do so. So I think, of course, we're all on the same page, and I want to appreciate all of you for agreeing to deliberate a little further and dig a little bit deeper. And come to a conclusion that I think is overwhelmingly positive, certainly when it comes to this first September 30th. And I think we'll have lots more to say once we've had the benefit of our own training. I understand that all of our staff have now been trained, and thank you, Mr. Dyke, because I know you've been very proactive in ensuring that municipal staff are being well supported through the process. And it's great to hear that I think 90% of our staff have at least received that first bit of training. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, great. So anyway, we're on our way. Still early steps on the journey, but appreciate that you're on the journey with us, and we look forward to seeing many of our community members out on September 30th. We do plan to fly the Every Child Matters flag at noon, and we've invited representatives from each of the school boards, as well as Indigenous and non-Indigenous members of our community to come out for that if they would like. So that's certainly open for anyone's participation. It's an outdoor event on obviously September 30th, and as Councillor Strachan said, there's lots of resources and some primetime programming happening both through the Aboriginal People's Television Network and CBC and many other partners. So there's lots of ways to get good information. I know staff, I had asked staff to prepare a motion for us, so we got the wording right. And I do have one here. And that is that Council recognize the federally declared National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and its observance, obviously by North Grenville, as well as other municipalities in the province, and as a consequence, close North Grenville's Municipal Center on September 30th, 2021. I'm not sure if I read that as clearly as it needed to be. Clerk, do I have that right? Was it a coherent motion for the most part?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay. And did I see someone trying to move that?
I'll motion.
Okay, Deputy Mayor can move, and Councillor Strachan will second. Thank you. Any further comments from Council? I also just want to recognize quickly before we call the vote, there has been an internal working group of staff members over the summer, and I know they too have put a lot of work into this, into trying to create a path for not just municipal employees, but for our community. And I know that they've spent a lot of time on this, and we hope as a community to benefit from an Indigenous-led partner out of Ottawa who has offered and has been engaged to provide some support as we launch those community engagement sessions. So thank you to all staff, not just Mr. Dyke, but I know he got a group going and they're very talented and very passionate about the issue. So I will thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Just a comment. No, just a comment. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just like you just said, I want to let's invite, we're inviting the staff to come, but also, of course, the public to come out. I'll be there. I'm sure the rest of the council will be there if they can. So yeah, we look forward to that day. I'm not sure what the weather looks like, but be prepared.
And wear orange. Councillor Strickland?
And to go as a companion to the attendance of that ceremony, I would encourage council as well as any members on the public to share resources that you come across with your friends, whether it's on social media or email or through casual conversation, because I think that it's important for people to recognize that there's lots of information out there and there's very easy ways to access it, but it's also an opportunity to engage with fellow residents and family members and friends on the topic. And I found that the conversation surrounding all of this is as important as the learning, because I think it's part of the process of coming together and recognizing this as a community. So please do so and try and attend the event on Thursday as well. Thank you.
Yeah, we know our kids will be in school and they will be marking in their own way, but we hope that those of you who feel compelled to come out, even if you don't have your kids with you, feel that there's a space for you to be there. And it definitely is a journey. That's what I have concluded. It's certainly in terms of my own learning and my own want to be an ally and a good partner on behalf of the community. So we have a motion on the floor. Can I call the question, colleagues? Are we good? Okay, all in favor? Good, thank you. That motion carries. And again, Councillor O'Sullivan is traveling, so she isn't with us today, but sends her regrets. I'll turn it over to Ms. Babcock-Cormier for the administrative matters.
So thank you, Your Worship. It's the confirmation bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw 9721 to confirm the proceedings of council at its special meeting held on September 27, 2021 be adopted and passed.
Councillor Barclay, will you move that? Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Strachan, thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Good. And then I think I can move to adjournment. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay. All right, because we only have one item under other business. Are we inviting, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Heather, of course, there is an opportunity for questions from members of the community or the media, is that right?
We do have one member of the media. He is experiencing some difficulties, he indicated, with his technology. So I'm not sure if he'll be able to take himself off mute and confirm whether or not he has any questions.
Can he use the chat function?
He was having difficulties using the chat function. He let me know.
Sure. Okay. Brandon, we see your name. We can't see your face, but should you, if you're unable to intervene right now, should you wish to, you can follow up with us later. I'll just give you a chance to say hello if in fact you're able to come off mute. Not seeing that that's possible. So Heather, I think it's likely best that we invite Brandon to follow up, should he wish to? Okay.
Yes, Your Worship.
And have we received any questions from members of the community?
No, we have not, Your Worship.
Okay. So then we'll go to adjournment then, colleagues. I will invite someone to move a motion to adjourn at 5:32 p.m. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconder? Anyone? Thank you, Councillor Barkley. Okay. So we have a motion to adjourn at 5:32 p.m. I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. Thank you. That passes and we're adjourned. Thank you again, colleagues. I know we'll be seeing you before Thursday, but please do join us on Thursday and wear your best orange.
Brandon should not think that this is typical in length for council meetings.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. But sometimes these single issues, we can get it done quickly.